Hey friends, we need to develop a whatever it takes attitude. This is true whether it comes to bringing your friends to Jesus, whether it comes to um, trying to do whatever Jesus has asked you to do. Um, Even out of the church realm, we needed to develop a resiliency inside of us. It's a character trait that's just too many people quit way too quickly. And there's a story, one of my favorite stories. I know I say it a lot, but in Mark 2, 1 to 12, we're going to read 1 to 4, but then we're going to talk about having a whatever it takes type of an attitude. Here's what it says. A few days later, when Jesus again entered Capernaum, the people heard that he had come home. They gathered in such large numbers that there was no room left, not even outside the door, and he preached the word to them. Some men came, bringing him a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them. Since they could not get him to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it, and then lowered the mat the man was lying on. See, these people, they had decided we're getting him to Jesus as quickly as possible. Now, here's what I'm making this part up, but here's what I imagine happened. I imagine these guys were some kind of a crew, whether they were roofing or some kind of construction, and something happened and one of them got hurt. Maybe it was the fault of one or some of the other ones. And they said they'd heard about this, fellow Jesus. We've got to get him to Jesus, because sometimes Jesus heals people, or so what we hear, right? And so they put this dude on a mat, and they began trying to find him. And so I don't know if they were from this town, but I imagine they were going from village to village. Oh, we heard Jesus was over there, so they went over there. Oh, nope, Jesus was here 3 days ago. Now he went that way. And so they went following Jesus over there. And they're carrying this guy. They're trying to catch up to Jesus because they know that Jesus is the only hope that this guy has. And then they finally do. They pull up into, what did it say? Capernaum. And the streets are eerily empty. Where's everybody at? But they hear, maybe a roar from, one side of town. And so they start moving that way, and they can't find anybody, and they go through the fish market, and there's nobody that's there, and they go through right. And it's just, they keep moving to where they think where there's a crowd. So they're hoping that it's Jesus. And they finally get to this place, and it's so packed that they can't get inside. There's people outside the door. There's people looking in the windows. And so I imagine one of them goes, well, I guess we'll just wait. And then they hear their friend moan, because of how much pain he's in. No, we got to get him to Jesus right now. And one of them goes, well, I'll go check the roof. I'll see if we can't get, up there. Maybe we can figure something out. And they do. And they go, okay, we got to the roof. We're on top. And so one of them, takes a knife out, and he begins to peel into the tiles that were on the roof, and and so he peeks inside, and no, Jesus isn't here. Jesus is on the other side of the house. Okay. And so from inside the house, there's people that are going, what the heck why is stuff falling on me? And I think Jesus knows what's going on. I think he gets a little grin. But eventually the guys make their way over to where Jesus is, and they destroy Peter's property, right? They pull a tile up, and they lower the man down to Jesus, and we're going to see what happens, in the next couple of videos. But I love these guys' tenacity, right? These are the type of friends that you want to have. And that's who followers of Jesus we need to be for our friends and our co-workers and the people that God places in our path every day. We need to have a whatever it takes attitude when it comes to getting them to Jesus, right? We need to have that in our own life. Like, I'm not going to let anything stop me. I'm not going to let anything come between me and my Heavenly Father. But beyond that, for our friends, our teachers, our coworkers, our bosses, our neighbors, whatever it takes, I'm going to be the type of person that's going to have a chance of creating an introduction between Jesus and them. Because, friend, you might be the only Bible some people read. You might be the only Jesus some people come into contact with prior to actually meeting him themselves. I hope that you have a beautiful day. We have to develop this tenacity, whatever it takes. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.